do a little kirtan. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Sri Radha Govardhan Ki, Shri Sri Krishna Balaram Giriraj Maharaj Ki, Shri Sri Gauranitai Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Hey Tom, can you pass out some Bhagavad-gitas to everyone? So today, I thought we'd talk about the nature of the soul as explained in the Vedic literature, especially Bhagavad-gita, of course. And I had an interesting, saw a little bit of an interview or a panel discussion this week, came up on my YouTube feed. And it was a discussion about the nature of consciousness, and especially in the light of AI, artificial intelligence. And in this panel, there was one sort of interviewer, and there were two panelists, and they were both experts in cognitive science. Cognitive, like brain science, how the brain works and everything, so forth like that. And can I have one of those too? Thanks. I'm planning in one of my future lives to be able to memorize the whole Bhagavad-gita, but that's definitely not in this lifetime going to happen. It was quite interesting, and the sort of lead up to it was in the very beginning they asked the two experts, the two brain cognitive scientists they weren't really psychologists, they were scientists. But one of them was sort of a philosopher as well, so we had some philosophical points. But basically they were asked the question that is it ever possible that AI could actually have consciousness? And so one of them said that, he said there's something called the hard problem of consciousness. I don't know if anybody's studied this at university, or anybody that studied psychology or brain or cognitive science. That this was something he coined. I can't remember his name, but you could Google it. But he coined this back in the 90s, the hard problem of consciousness. And what he was explaining was that sometimes when people talk about consciousness, he said sometimes you go to what's it called, like a convention or a scientific kind of convention on consciousness. He said sometimes they're just talking about the difference between being awake and asleep. And he said that's very easy to see scientifically. You take certain measurements of the brain, you take certain scans or whatever when someone's asleep and then when someone's awake. And so it's very easy to see, there's this part of the brain when they're sleeping, theta waves and REM sleep and all that. And then when they're awake, it's another whole part. And he said that's very easy. And then there's another part which is, what was the second one? It was just that you could respond to stimulus. So they would measure people's brain responding to stimulus. But he said the hard problem of consciousness is that to actually quantify the mechanism for self-awareness. What makes somebody self-aware, or even aware of anything? And he called it the subjective experience of consciousness. And he said that's the hard problem of consciousness. And he said we really have no idea. So even though they started off by saying that they have no idea, still when they were asked the question, this same person, the same scientist, whether he was asked whether AI could possibly be conscious, be self-aware in that sense, in the real sense of actually experiencing. He said, given that we accept that somehow or another the brain, although it's matter, somehow or another by that organization, it creates consciousness. He said, we accept that. So based on that, there's no reason that those neurons firing zeros and ones, basically yes or no, couldn't be replicated by a huge amount of silicon chips, and that could at some point be conscious. So that's interesting on a number of levels. Like firstly, to make the statement in the beginning that we have no idea, that this is the hard problem of consciousness for scientists, is the actual experience, something that becomes aware. That's actually like you're aware. I mean, we can only assume. I mean, it would be very philosophically sort of like outlandish to say that we have so many things in common. I can see that you're here, you're here, you're here, you're here. You're looking at that, and I know I'm conscious because I'm conscious of what's happening. To then say everybody else isn't conscious, well, that would be kind of ludicrous. It's just obvious that if I'm conscious, then you're. So we can all understand we are all conscious. Conscious means that we have an awareness. We are having an experience, right? And if we look into our brains, and those cells, they're not having an experience, right? So anyway, the first thing. They started the conference by saying that we can't understand this. This is the hard problem of consciousness. We can't understand how the organization of grey matter, the neural network, the science, the cognitive science, we can't understand how does that create consciousness. We can't understand that. Firstly, they accepted that. But then they said, this first scientist said, but we accept that AI could become conscious because we can see that consciousness is created from just simply a combination of matter. Anything that's interesting? To say on the one hand, we don't know this, we have no idea how this mechanism works, that simply unconscious neurons all organize somehow together to create consciousness. We don't know how that works. At the same time, we're accepting that definitely happens. We're accepting that definitely happens, and based on that definitely happening, it's possible that AI could also be conscious because we can see it's just a bunch of matter, a bunch of neurons that are firing yes or no, and why couldn't silicon chips do that? So that was interesting, I thought. This was from the scientist, sorry I don't have his name, but you can Google him, that coined this phrase, the hard problem of consciousness, back in the 90s. The other scientist, who was a little younger, his answer to it was that it's possible that, he said no, because he said, although he accepts also that consciousness is simply, a combination of all this dead matter that isn't conscious, but somehow or another it organizes in a way. He says that there's something special about matter that allows it to do that, and I don't think that silicon chips could do that. Could replicate that. So that was a slightly different answer, but the underlying premise was the same, of accepting that somehow or another there's a combination of unconscious things that you can put together in some arrangement, somehow or another, and then suddenly you have a being who's conscious, who's having an experience, right? They were both coming from that. That was their underlying conception, right? Interesting? Yeah. I thought so. So I thought I'd share that with you. And I thought we could, in the light of that, read Bhagavad-gita 7, Krishna, what is it? Well, it's the one apariyamitastvanyam, the one after 7.5. So we'll quickly read we'll quickly read 7.4. I'll just read that myself and then we'll go on. So 7, 4 and 5 go together, right? And basically, Krishna has saying in the 7th chapter, he's saying that by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Right? So he's saying, you practice this yoga, this practice of bhakti yoga, conscious of Krishna, with your mind attached to him. I'm on 7.1 now, on page... Sorry? Chapter 7.1, yeah. Page 303. Yeah. So I just went back, but it's kind of important to see the lead up, that what Krishna's saying, that why he's saying this, right? So he says that, he says, by practicing this yoga you can know me, he says, in full. And then he says, I'll declare to you this knowledge in full, both phenomenal and numinous. Right? Numinous means sort of transcendental or like theoretical or beyond. And then phenomenal means like a phenomenon that you can see. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know. So that's just saying, Krishna says some pretty big statements in Bhagavad-gita. Such like, I am the source of all spiritual worlds. I mean, nobody else said that in the history of humanity. No, really. I mean, seriously, right? Well, but they didn't even say that. I mean, no great prophet ever said that. They said, I am coming from, I am the Son, the Father, the Father who sent me, and I give word of the Father. And so many things like that. But this is also a pretty big statement. I mean, if Krishna wasn't God, you'd think, wow, this is a pretty big thing to say. But if he is God, which he is, and he's telling us that he is, we accept that. Why not? He's definitely proven that well and truly. But it's a big statement. He's saying, if you know this, nothing further will be for you to know. That's a pretty big statement, really. Someone says, I'm going to explain to this, and after I've explained this to you, you'll know everything. There's nothing else you won't know. In regards to knowledge? Well, certainly in regard to knowledge, yeah. Yeah, yes, but still. He said that again. He said that again as well. He says what? Where does he say that? You don't need to know anything. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely in terms of knowledge, but still my point is, if you went to a university course or something, a lecture, and the first lecture, the lecturer stands up and says, once you finish my course, you will know everything. There would be nothing further for you to know. You think, this guy's like pompous, maybe. You said, I didn't say it. You said. She's born in Vrindavan, she can say such things about Krishna. Now, you're not saying that about Krishna, but I'm saying... Yes, I know, but that's the point. We should... I'm just kind of making a bit humorous, but to raise the point that Krishna is making these very, they're huge statements if you analyze it and think, what other book does anybody say that? That I'm going to give you this knowledge, and after that, that's it. So it's, just to note that. All right, so he says, out of many thousands among men and women, obviously, he's talking about men, mankind, whatever. Manu means mankind. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavour for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Okay, so this is saying that. First he says, when you have this knowledge, you'll have nothing more to know. And then he says, to actually have this knowledge is extremely, extremely rare. Thousands of people try for perfection, right? They just try. And out of those thousands, only one will achieve it. But even of those who've achieved perfection, means pure, knowledge of spirit. Brahman is saying that. Those who've actually gone beyond all material knowledge and understand spirit, even of all of those, hardly one actually knows him, Krishna, he's saying. Right? Right, now he actually starts the thing, the impartation of the knowledge, imparting the knowledge. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, altogether these 8 constitute my separated material energies. All right, so he's saying, I'm about to give you the knowledge, after which you'll have nothing further to know. Understand that it's extremely rare that someone can actually understand me. And what does he do? Straight away, he goes straight to the energies. Sorry? The energies in the material world, right? Bhuma Apanalove, a seminal verse of the Bhagavad-gita, right? Earth, water, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, altogether these 8 constitute my separated material energies. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I'm not sure if everybody's heard me say this. I hope I'm not repeating myself too much, but there's a big difference between Vedic knowledge and material knowledge, Vedic material knowledge and Western or modern material knowledge, in that modern Western material knowledge, how things are classified is how elements and matter interacts with other matter, right? Earth, water, fire, what is it? Hydrogen, helium, that's the hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, whatever. This has this many electrons, that has that many electrons, it interacts in a certain way. That's all about how matter interacts with matter, right? Vedic is, it seems like, oh, this is simpler. This is simpler, it's not so complex as the Western, but it's not less complex. It is less complicated, but it's more sophisticated. Because it's actually dealing with how does living consciousness interact with matter, right? I gave the example last time, like an iron bar, Fe2 plus or Fe, whatever state the iron's in. According to the Western, it's an iron bar. You heat it up to 1,000 degrees, it's still an iron bar. There's a the type of atoms are iron with certain number of electrons, certain number of protons, like that. This is that scheme, right? But in the Vedic, if you have an iron bar, what's the element? Out of earth, water, fire, air, ether. It's earth, isn't it? Right? It's solidifying, it's solid, it gives support, it gives strength, it can contain other things, it can contain water which flows, so it's earth, right? All through Ayurveda, through the Jyotis, through all the Bhakti, everything. Through Bhagavad-gita, the same scheme is there. It's in the form of earth, so it has a certain effect on us, right? We can use it to support things. It's supporting this microphone, the steel, everything like that. Now, what happens if you heat it to 2,000 degrees? Probably can become liquid, but before it becomes liquid, it's hot, right? It's glowing hot. So what is the primarily effect on that? Are we going to use that to support ourselves? We're going to stand on that? What is the primary effect on our consciousness now? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Fire, why? It heats us, right? Yes, very good. The energy is there, right? So it gives light and it gives heat, primarily, right? We wouldn't use it to walk on or whatever. No, we'd use it to light something. We'd use it to, it's in that form. So it's fire, it initiates things, it starts things, it illuminates things, it gives heat, it warms things up and gets things going. That's fire, right? So it's predominantly fire. So this is a very sophisticated way of classifying material energy that is utilized by Ayurveda, and it's not that Ayurveda or Jyotish are separate sciences, they're just different aspects of the same science, which Krishna is giving here, of how this world is made up of these primary elements that interact with consciousness in a certain way. Yeah? Alright, so he gives that. Now, let's come to the verse we're on today, right? 7.5. So we'll chant it together. Apariyamitastvanyam Prakritim vidhime param Jivabhutam mahabaho Jayadam dharyate jagat. Someone else? Apariyamitastvanyam Prakritim vidhime param Jiva bhuta mahabaho Jayadam dharyate jagat. Is there minutes? Everyone have a go. It's a nice verse. Check. All right, guys, so somebody, maybe Vijay, can you start reading the purport? Is that okay? I'll read the translation together. Okay, so here we go. Besides let's go straight to it. Okay. Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. Okay, so you want to start with the purport?
Here it is clearly mentioned that living entities belong to the superior nature or energy of the Supreme Lord. The inferior energy is matter manifested in different elements, namely earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Both forms of material nature, namely gross, earth, etc., and subtle, mind, etc., are products of the inferior energy. The living entities who are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes are the superior energy of the Supreme Lord, and it is due to this energy that the entire material world functions. The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy. The living entity. Energies are always controlled by the energetic, and therefore the living entities are always controlled by the Lord. They have no independent existence. They are never equally powerful, as unintelligent men think. The distinction between the living entities and the Lord is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam as follows.
Okay, do you want to go next? Just skip the Sanskrit, just go to the translation. O Supreme Eternal.
Mm-hmm. O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied living entities were eternal and all-pervading like you, then they would not be under your control. But if the living entities are accepted as minute energies of your lordship, then they are at once subject to your supreme control. Therefore, real liberation entails surrender by the living entities to your control, and that surrender will make them happy. In that constitutional position, only can they be controllers. Therefore, men with limited knowledge who advocate the monistic theory that God and the living entities are equal in all respects are actually guided by a faulty and polluted opinion.
Okay. Tom, do you want to go? Oh, you go? Yep.
O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied entities were so eternal and
we just read that. Sorry. Next paragraph
sorry.
down. The Supreme Lord
the
Krishna.
Supreme Lord Krishna is the only controller, and all living entities are controlled by him. His living entities are his superior energy because they are the quality of their existence. Because the equality of their existence is one and the same with the Supreme, but they are never equal to the Lord in the quantity of power. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy, matter, the superior energy, the living entity, forgets his real spiritual mind and intelligence. This forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entity. But when the living entity becomes free of influence of the illusionary material energy, he attains a stage called mukti, or liberation. The false ego, under the influence of material and illusion, thinks, I am matter and material acquisitions, are mine. His actual position is realized when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the concept of his becoming one with all respects with God. Therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multi-energies of Krishna, and when his energy is freed from the material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna consciousness or liberated.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, so let's go back to text and just mention a couple of points here, breaking down this text a little more, especially in light of that conference that we spoke about, that little YouTube video this morning. So the first thing Krishna is saying here, and we can look in the Sanskrit, apariyamitastva anyam. So apara means inferior, right? Para means superior, like Paramatma, the superior Lord. And apara means inferior. Apariyam, this itas tu anyam. So inferior, so besides this inferior, there is another, right? Prakritim, energy. Vidhi, just try to understand, Krishna is saying, me param, which is my, but it is superior. Okay? That we don't speak Sanskrit, obviously, but it's nice to go through the Sanskrit word by word. It's been translated nicely. We can come to understand nicely what Krishna is saying here. That besides this inferior nature, and what is he talking about when he says besides this inferior? What's he talking about? Yeah? Yeah, specifically what? But why is he saying it here?
He's trying to distinguish between superior and inferior.
Yeah? Yeah, but what is exactly he's referring to? Like if I say I just cleaned my car and that was really dirty. Like it's two statements that come one after another. So what's he referring to when he says, besides this, inferior?
Like you said, he's referring to his superior energy. He has a superior energy who are the jivas.
That's the next part, but what's the first part? Apariyam itastvanyam. Apariyam itastvanyam. This apara, what is that? What is he referring to? Yeah? But specifically. What's he referring to? He just said it. Earth, water, fire, ether. Boom. He's talking about the previous verse. So it's just good to get, when you're reading slokas, you can read, every sloka also is an island. Every sloka has meaning. But also it has a connection to the previous. So he's just said earth, water, fire, ether. Then he says, beside this inferior, he's talking about that. What he just said, right? I mean, you're all right. I'm just catching the thread, the continuation of it. It's a conversation. He's just talking this, right? Right. So, besides all this, earth, water, fire, ether. So now, prakritim vidi me param. Just try to understand me param, my and superior energy. There's a superior energy. Okay, there's another energy, anyam prakritim, vidi me param. Now, jiva bhutam. And what is that superior energy? It's the jivas, right? It's the jiva, the souls, right? The actual consciousness, the actual conscious entities. Jiva bhutam, mahabaho. So, I don't know, I'm sure if we look into one of the acharyas would have a reason of why he just called Arjuna mighty armed. There'd be a reason. There's subtle, all kinds of subtle stuff going on. But there'll be, I don't know what the reason is, but he's told him that right now. But he's talking about Arjuna, Mahabaho. Great. Mahabaho means the arms, right? A mighty armed one. I won't speculate. I mean, I could think of something. But anyway, one of the acharyas would have told us. But anyway, he's talking to Arjuna, Mahabaho. Yaya edam, by whom? By whom? By who? Who's the by whom? Huh? No. The living entities, the jiva. By whom? Yaya, by them. Yaya idam. What is idam? This material world, right? Where is that? Where's a famous sloka from? You probably guys might not have heard this, but it's very common in the Vedas to say idam just means this material world. Om Purnam Mada Purnam Idam, right? In Upanishad, this verse is idam just means this, it's the whole material world, this. We can see the perspective of the sages. They're actually living in the spiritual world. And then when they talk about the material world, they just say, oh, this. idam. This thing here, down there. We fill up library books with how glorious this material world is. But according to the Vedic sages, it's just this thing. But down there, that thing. Yaya idam, by whom? Daryate. What does daryate mean? To hold, right? Interesting. Prabhupada translates it as utilized or exploited, but utilize means to hold something, to do it, but ultimately to maintain, yeah. The sort of crux meaning of dhara means to hold, right? One name of Lord Balaram is Haladhara, right? Hala means the plough, Haladhara is holding the plough, right? So many words you see dhara means to hold. All right, we'll come back to that. Jagat, the material world. This is why it's interesting to read the Sanskrit as well, because if you think about it, this word, sloka, and Prabhupada does use this in places. I don't know where, I'll have to look it up. But he also uses this sloka to say that the material world is maintained by the desire of the living entities in that sense. If it's just up to Krishna and God, he doesn't want this world. He's got his perfect world. But this is just, they want that, he manifested that. So it's the desire of living entities, dharyate jagat. They're maintaining it in a sense that they want it. So they're perpetuating it, right? They're keeping it going. But also dharyate, they're utilizing it, they're trying to exploit it, this material world. Okay. So I just want to stop now and ask for some reflections on how does this differ from this what I was describing this morning about this YouTube video. Like what is a sort of a really crux difference between that? Can somebody say? With this verse on the mic, in case somebody's listening online. Tom, you want to say?
So I was thinking, because consciousness, you can't really pick up on it in the material sense. It's kind of beyond that. So the superior energy that he's talking about is even beyond anything, even like he's saying the four elements, and then intelligence and mind is still part of the inferior material energy. So that goes to show that the spiritual energy is so far beyond and subtle that we can't even kind of pick up on it in some way.
Very good, yeah. And that's actually what those scientists were saying, wasn't it? Yeah. They were literally saying, we have come to the conclusion that there is no explanation, at least currently, and we can't even conceive of an explanation in the future. In fact, one of them said that it's just, later on in the conversation, that it's just irreducible. It's like you just can't, it just is there. So, okay, but then you can't, if it's something so irreducible that you can't understand it, like the ultimate nature of mass, like you can see how it works, right? You can see how mass works, you can see there's mathematical equations about gravity, you can see how charge works. Positive charge going through a negative field, there's a certain attraction, repulsion like that. You can see how it works, but what is the nature of charge? What is the nature of mass? Nobody can really say. Like the most advanced scientists, they can't say. They can see how it. So they said maybe consciousness is like that. Now we would that it's a fundamental ingredient of the world, consciousness, right? Now that's okay. We would agree with that actually. The Vedas agree with that point of view. But then if you agree with that point of view, then you can't say that it's created from a combination of matter, right? You can't make that. If it's a fundamental thing, it'd be like saying, "Oh, mass can be created or something." It's not. That's ingenuous to say that. So so very good point. That Krishna is saying that it is it's so far beyond, it's even beyond the subtleties of our mind, even the intelligence, even the false sense of self, these super subtle coverings, is beyond all that, he's saying. So yeah, you definitely cannot explain it through material causes. And that's what the scientists basically said. Anybody else like to give some reflection on this? Yep. No? Don't have to. Huh? Just what this verse is saying, which is basically that beyond all of these material things, there is actually another energy, and that energy is exploiting this material, this lower energy. So there's a distinct other kind of energy that's beyond material, compared to what the scientists were saying was that, their conclusion was that this energy or this consciousness was created by a combination of this lower energy. Anyway, I'm giving it away here. But that's what I'd love to hear you guys kind of, just your take on it. Yes.
Well, that's good that it's the middle ground is that it's just unfathomable what that conscious higher energy is. But my curiosity is, you were saying that even in the future you can't even put it to paper. So is that fine? Are we trying to intellectualize and scientifically prove that higher energy? Is it okay that we just sit in the state of we accept that there's something beyond us?
You mean for us or for this materialistic scientists?
Scientists.
Oh, for the scientists?
Yeah.
Is it okay that they just say that?
Yeah, basically.
Just say it again. Say exactly what you said.
So
are they happy with?
If we all agree that there is that higher energy, it's really hard for me to word this. I think you'll support me.
See, that's the thing. And this is the difference. They don't agree with that. They don't agree with that.
The scientists are saying that they can't measure it, they can't reduce it, they can't even
quantify. Yeah.
So are they happy with that conclusion?
No, they're not happy. Yeah. They call it the hard problem of consciousness. So they're not happy with it as a scientist because they can't solve it. Yeah.
So what's the missing puzzle piece?
The difference is
They don't want to.
They basically it's really interesting if you listen to it. At the very beginning the presenter says some people say that consciousness is due to some other thing, like a transcendent thing. Maybe some people call it a soul. But anyway, today we're going to talk about, and I'm just like, what? Like, I thought he was going to go on and give his reason of why. Oh no, but we're not going to accept that. We're going to ignore that, and we're just going to go on with our own thing. But he just left it hanging, and I'm like, what? This is in the first minute. But anyway, today we're actually talking about. Yeah. So this is the real point on this point. They're saying that they don't accept. This is the point. They don't accept that it is a higher energy. Now, Krishna is saying it's a higher energy, but they're saying that it doesn't exist. Interesting. It's really interesting when you tease this out, because what they're actually saying is there's no such thing as consciousness, actually, because it's just something that magically appears through a combination of these lower inferior elements. Right? Take the mic if you're going to say.
The way that they're trying to pick up on that superior energy is with material instruments.
Yeah.
So how can they? It's like
no, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Blast them, Barry. Blast those scientists. I'm not serious. Barbie's, they're so buffed up. Do you want to share, Virginia, any thoughts on this? It's just interesting to think about the difference between their presentation and Krishna's presentation.
I guess it's just trying to create a tangible explanation for the intangible. Like you can't prove something that you can't see, or it's beyond our. It is hard to talk about, isn't it?
But it's good to. Chaitanya Charitamrita says it's good to discuss these things because it improves your faith and it makes it clearer. When you try to discuss philosophically all these really
It's hard to
subtle
articulate, though,
Yeah. Oh,
consciousness,
definitely.
talking about it, I
Yeah,
think.
definitely. The scientists say exactly that. Interestingly, they say they can study the brain function, whether it's awake, whether it's asleep, whether it's perceiving things. That's easy. But that's why he calls it the hard problem of consciousness, because the hard problem of consciousness is what is it that actually makes somebody self-aware, that actually makes, and he called it subjective. So what is it that makes somebody have a subjective experience? The word subjective means there's a subject. It means there's a person having that. John likes brown. Well, that's subjective. He likes brown. Jill likes green. That's subjective. So how does this combination of matter create a subjective experience? Cannot. So I think they cannot. No, they just admit that we have no idea. But this is where I feel it's ingenuous. Just saying that if you say that it's something that you cannot, there's basically no real. There's a couple of theories that they mentioned, and both of them said, "Oh, I don't think that's got much validity." Even they themselves, because they don't really have any theory about how consciousness and subjective experience can be created out of dull material things. They have no theory. They have no idea. They don't have a theory. There's no mechanism for that particular part of it, subjective experience. How somebody's awake, asleep, somebody's experiencing things I can measure the brain for. Subjective experience? No. So that's okay, then to say that, but then to say, but we have faith that this idea of subjective experience can be created by a combination of matter. We have faith in our matter. We are faithful to our matter. I think that's a bit disingenuous. I think that's just say, essentially you're saying, I don't know anything about this, but I'm sure it's like this. That's like, philosophically that's kind of...
This might come as like a very basic question, but truly, like, what is the essence of why they won't come around to accepting religion?
Yeah, this is a very good question.
Is it just like some ego?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
There's a movie called I can't remember what it is now, but it's hey, what?
Intelligent.
Yeah, it's about intelligent design. What's that movie called? No, it's called something else. It's by a Jewish comedian, and it was made by the Christian sort of intelligent scientists, intelligent design proponents in America. And anyway, there's one part in that movie where they're interviewing Richard Dawkins, who's a very famous atheist. You've heard of Richard Dawkins, yeah? And so this interviewer, he's theistic but very intelligent, and he's saying to him, so is it possible that DNA was like seeded on the planet Earth? It was brought from some other place and seeded here, and due to that, all of this evolved, and he said, yeah, it's possible. So he said, yeah, so you're saying it could have come from outside. There could be some other person that's come and go. He said, yeah, but that must have evolved over there first. And that's a religious belief. That is not science. That's the straight faith. I have faith in evolution. Evolution is my God. Yeah. Yeah. And when he's asked that, maybe there's some higher power that came and then they gave the DNA and then somehow that made, and he said, yeah, but it must have evolved over there. There's no divine creator. There just isn't. It's like, yeah, exactly. So it's a religious belief. So essentially they're saying we do not accept any transcendent energy or being beyond matter. That's all we deal with, and that's it. And even in this interview, they said when they got towards the soul and that sort of thing, that's a bit controversial. But anyway, let's get back to the matter. And they just kind of, and that's the thing. And people have said that actually, if you talk to scientists individually, many of them are faithful. And the original scientists were all faithful. They believed in a higher power. I mean, how could you if you study, the structure of leaves and everything. And the original botanists, biologists, especially, all of those people before Darwin, he was, his wife told, this isn't a side, but his wife told, you're going to go to hell by this. So his wife was very religious. Anyway, that's a side point. But yeah, his daughter died at a very young age, and he lost faith in God. Yeah. So this is, there's an example you can look in Charles Darwin's life about how everybody was religious, like bar none in the Western world. All the great universities were all established on understanding the glory of God and His creation. Yeah, all the scientists, like it's super. This is the thing. This is the thing I find is very kind of one-sided, because I went through the whole science thing and did a science degree at university and everything, and like we were taught all these theorems by. What's the one about a body of water, its flotation is equal to the mass of the water that it displaces? Archimedes, is it? Archimedes principle? Archimedes, isn't it? Anyway, that person, maybe it was another scientist. I'm getting things switched up, but one of the scientists that is embedded in my head is like this super, extremely intelligent, and he gave so many amazing things, but that he was extremely theistic. Like he wrote things about, throughout my search for, I think it might have been Niels Bohr, might have been one of them, who was an atomic particle physicist. Niels Bohr, B-O-H-R. I'm pretty sure he's that. He says, in my study for the meaning of life, it slipped through my hand, and I feel there's a third thing in the universe, which is consciousness, which is beyond all of this, just atoms and matter and things. And I'll have to do some research, and maybe next time I'll present this. But it'll be a whole interesting, just discussion about how theistic scientists are in general, and especially if you go back anything before 100 years before now. Like everybody was about, wow, Krishna, God is amazing, look what He's done. And even now, still. But there's like a party line. It's like if you say kind of things like that, then that's controversial. And that was exactly in this interview. And what happens is you just don't get extended. Your tenure is not extended. Oh yes, sir, you mentioned God. This is a controversial thing. I'm sorry that your contract's not going to be renewed next year. It's just like the way that science goes. And they just come up against this hard wall of, like, this interview I'm talking about could easily have been, and some people say it's a soul, and we'll also think about that today. We'll also give that as one possibility, and that would be very genuine and nobody would complain. We don't understand that, so it could be that it's a combination of matter that makes consciousness, or it could be actually that that all the religions are right. Like that is another possibility, just philosophically, because we don't know. That would be a genuine way to say it, but they're not allowed to say that. You're just not allowed to say that. Virginia?
I watched a documentary by Bruce Lipton maybe last year.
Okay.
And he was talking about when Isaac Newton formulated his theory, which is what science is based on, I believe.
Physics, yeah. Classical physics is based on Newton, yeah.
And in his, when he wrote his theory, he actually, this is just what I learned. Yeah. I don't know how true this is. That he included a spiritual aspect to his findings, and there was included in his theory. But at that time, the church had so much power that they took all of that out and just left it as what physics is today. So there was actually findings that could prove so much of what we're talking about, but it's never been accepted into the world of science.
So it's actually the church that
wanted
to take it out.
Yes.
Amazing.
So that's what I heard anyway.
Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Cool. All right. Anything else? Yep.
Yeah. I was thinking that they're so attached to what they can measure, and all of their findings and everything's based on the theory of evolution. And for them to then accept that there is a higher power might make them have to, maybe they're afraid that then they're wrong about everything else that they can prove so amazingly.
No, definitely. And I mean, this is all in response to that question about like, why don't they admit it? And it's really, if you actually go into universities and you meet the professors and things like that, like these people have dedicated their lives and they've reached a certain level. They're on really good salaries. They're like, and they've like chosen their path, and there's no way they're gonna go back on that. Like it also just gets down to just basic, like, that's my job, is to say that. And you accept that in the beginning, and then you go down that path, and it's kind of like, that's the accepted path. And you're certainly not, at the end of the day, going to give up all your money and prestige and everything and say, oh, actually, I think maybe I'm wrong. Like, it just doesn't, 90% doesn't happen. But that's what it is. It's a materialistic, worldview, which is supported by the capitalists, basically. Supported by the Vaishnavas who want to sell the idea that you'll be happy by this thing. And they don't want to hear that you are not a thing, you're a person, and you'll only be happy by interacting with another person. You'll never be happy by interacting with a thing. They don't want to hear that. That doesn't sound good on the advertising. It doesn't inflame the motor passion to go and get out the credit card and get another $5,000 in debt to get that boat that you don't need, just because you think it's going to make me happy or it's going to make my husband or wife happy or whatever. They don't want to hear that. So this huge vested interest in, this is sociology now, like why the world is such a way that basically the Vaishyas, the business people are in control, unfettered from any moral or spiritual guidance, whereas Vedic culture, the business people have free rein to do business, but they're morally, directed and guided and restricted by the Kshatriyas, by the administrative class, and then they're spiritually restricted and guided by the Brahmanas, by the priestly class. So they don't have free rein within that. They say, we want to go and dig a big hole over there and get this black stuff out and sell it and make heaps of money, and at the same time it's going to wreck the whole water table and kill all the animals and everything. And the Kshatriyas say, no, sorry, you're not allowed to do that. I know it's going to make you money, but you're not allowed to do it. Oh, okay, all right, we'll go somewhere else and do money. But the way the world is now, greed is good, America, like the American way is the most powerful country for the last 100 or so years. And basically if it makes money, it's good. Well, who cares how it makes money? And of course people now are realizing, well, you can't just destroy your own nest, destroying this planet in the name of making money. But this is also intertwined with this atheistic idea of that there is no God, there's no ultimate consequence for anything we do, so we can do anything. So this it's all combined with that as well. Krishna. Well, that's it, because we're in Kali Yuga. It's meant to be like that. That's right. Yeah. But Lord Chaitanya is here, so we have this amazing opportunity to give this knowledge to people, and it revolutionized people's life, like revolutionized our life. Like just to hear that we're not the body, we're a soul. We're not to do with this material world. We can only be happy by interacting with spirit. Well, the scientists are saying there is no such thing as spirit. Or, they don't know what it is. It's just matter. But Krishna is saying that to get in touch with that spirit is the only way you'll be happy. And the materialists, the scientists are saying, just interact more with matter, you'll be happy. And then you're not happy. And they say, well, just get more in debt, buy some more things. It's marketing. You'll get there. Just keep trying. But they're not. It doesn't matter. But the Krishna is saying, no, you're a spirit soul. Apariyamitasana, right? You're beyond all this matter, so you can only be happy by entering back into that realm, the realm of spirit. Like a fish out of water, right? You can give him all the jewels and put him on a big throne and worship him and praise him and tell him how great he is. But he needs to be in the water. He's a fish, right? So we're souls, we need to be in the soul world. Yeah. All right. right. Well, we had a good little chat. And you guys got kirtan today down at Byron? Yeah. Awesome. You can put that into practice. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All glory to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.